Hello, welcome to the Tuesday, November 1st edition of the OSU Sports Extra podcast. I'm Patrick Prince, joined as always by Kelly Hines, coming to us from Stillwater today. Love the backdrop, very nice.
They set this up for me. They did not set this up for me.
I thought you were being serious. I thought they were helping you out a little bit.
No, this is I think this is always up here because it has the sponsors on it. So this is where they have the basketball post games here in Gallagher, but it's also where they have the visitor post game for football games. And so the visitors, probably put their backdrop in front of this, but this is the only place that's available for me to be set up here. So the other thing with the setup here, where the media workroom is in Gallagher, that's also where the visitors training room is. Like these rooms serve multiple purposes. So that makes early season basketball games really interesting. Just like a peek behind the scenes here at Gallagher.
Yeah, well, you're in Stillwater for media availability for basketball, and we'll talk about that here in a second. That's right. You heard it right. Basketball season is upon us.
It's November. I heard you say that, and that doesn't seem right. But I'm extremely excited about basketball season. It just doesn't seem like it should be time for it yet.
Yeah, it doesn't feel right. But oh well. If they don't consult us on the scheduling, unfortunately,
they don't. And it's the same time every year. It's not like it's moved up.
That's true. But yeah, and yet it's a surprise every year.
every year.
All right, so moving on from the debacle that was the TCU game.
Kansas State.
I mean, thank you. Why don't I?
It was a team wearing purple.
Yeah. And I'm easily confused. So okay, so
we've accomplished a lot in the early minutes of this.
We're going to rebound. We're starting.
Will we have more of a rebound from that, or will OSU have more of a rebound from that game?
Great question. All right. So seriously, where do we go from here?
I think you just have to coaches and players always talk about the 24-hour rule of, within, that the 24 hours after a win, after a loss, whatever happens, you can think through it, then you can talk about it, but then you have to flush it and move on. But I think it's especially important after a game like that. Like, you still have to watch the film and break down what went wrong, which was everything. And you still have to try to address those things, but I don't know how much you really lean on that film that much because it was such a disaster. So I think it really just comes down to the players in that locker room being like, okay, that was not us. We don't know what happened, but we have to get past that. And that starts Sunday and in the meetings and all of that. The players are off on Monday, so this is their first day back at practice today. We'll talk to a few of them after practice. I'm sure they'll all say the right things because they always do. And it's just about, those veterans and the leaders of the team, keeping everyone, where they need to be, mentally. And I think a lot of it is going to go back to, what Mike Gundy said about, the changes that they made in practice that seemed to kind of mess with them somehow. That's all he could really attribute it to. So being back to being really physical in practice and going, if that was ones versus twos, whatever they normally do, we don't know because we don't watch practice. Whatever a normal game week looks like, I think they're just in a big hurry to get back to that because, I think we talked last week about, this team is so resilient and, this team is starting to have an identity, and then everything is erased with one game. Maybe not completely erased, but it definitely was so confused by that because that's not the team that I felt like I knew, from the first half of the season. So I think you just have to be like that was not us. That what happened, that's not us. We have another opportunity to go out and prove ourselves this week. But even though the last 4 games are against the bottom 4 teams in the conference, in terms of just league standings, I wouldn't say those are the worst 4 teams because they're still pretty good. Those games are going to be a challenge, especially for a team that put up 0 points last week. So I think you just have to find a way to move on from that. I've never covered a game in which the one of the teams that I thought would win didn't even show up. I've never covered anything like that. So definitely shocking, but weird things happen. And you just have to chalk it up to that was just not their day and be like, okay, the next opportunity we have to prove ourselves, I think it'll probably go a little bit differently. I expect them to score points this week. That's my bold prediction. Really going out there on a limb.
Yeah. So it makes what was already going to be an interesting game in Lawrence against an improved Kansas team even more interesting. I mean, in the past, this would be an easy rehab game to kind of get back on track. This is not Kansas anymore. Like this.
Yeah. And I think, every team is so banged up right now that like, it's really so unfortunate that OSU had its open date in week 4. Kansas is coming off an open date. So you definitely feel like they're going to be healthier. Their starting quarterback could be back. Who knows? Every quarterback is so beat up right now. Spencer Sanders. But I think OSU has an advantage in that it played so poorly last week that you have to expect this will be a completely different team this week. And if I were Kansas, I'd be like, oh, this is not a good time for us to play this team. They're going to be pissed off. And can we say that? I don't know if we can say that. They're going to be not happy about what happened, and they're going to have something to prove. And I feel like Kansas State, the way that Kansas State approached that game last week, they were mad about what happened against TCU. They won the coin toss and were like, we would like the ball first. They're like, we're going to like shove this down their throats. And at no point in this game are we going to let up. It'll be fourth and 10. We're going to score a touchdown. The fourth quarter, we're not taking any of our starters out. Like, we are not going to let you like score at any point. Like, they just were so determined. And I would love to see an OSU performance like that, just to see if that's possible from this team. Because I think we've seen like these flashes here and there of really good moments, but then like a 70-yard touchdown, that they give up. It's just like they've just been, now you're seeing more inconsistency when you look at things, obviously the most recent week that kind of sticks with you a little bit. And so you start to kind of see everything differently. Like, is this team actually any good? Like, they should have beat TCU. And I think TCU is good. You start to question everything, but Kansas has lost 3 games in a row. They are still selling out games. This will be another sellout crowd. I think this is just a weird season. Like, OSU is going to have 7 consecutive 2:30 games, but I think this is also their 7th game in a row to play in front of a sellout crowd, either their own or the visitor, which, that's probably good. That probably means that people are interested in seeing them play, but I think it more than anything, it speaks to where all the programs are in the Big 12. Kansas is selling out games now. Like, what are we doing? So things have gotten real weird, but Kansas's program, like, they've lost 3 games in a row and people are still coming to games because they're just so like hungry for success. And they've seen that this season. So I don't remember what your question was. I have no idea if I answered it at all, but this is definitely a big game for both teams, because Kansas is trying to get to bowl eligibility. I mean, they think they need one more win in the final months of the season to get there. And I'm guessing they will get there. I don't know if they will get there this week, but they have goals in mind for their season that would be really big for them to accomplish. Yeah, for sure. Do we have any updates on Spencer Sanders? How's he doing? What do you think? Do you think we have updates on that? My guess is no, we don't. My guess is no. Asked about it yesterday. Mike Gundy said, I hope he's doing okay. This is like the thing with coaches who do their availability like early in the week. They can always be like, I don't know today. While knowing that this is the only time we talk to them. Like, right. It's not like we can like check back tomorrow. So I am just guessing based on previous weeks. Because Mike Gundy actually said, we're going to rest him some during the week, which is what we've been doing. And it's like, oh, well, that's new information. Like, not really surprised. Like, I'm guessing, he is dealing with the same shoulder issue, and I would guess that he's going to play through it. He's going to do whatever it takes to get ready for that game, just like how he didn't want to come out of that Kansas State game when he probably should have come out. Pretty much what I think Spencer has earned the right at this point in his career to whatever he wants. Like, they're going to be like, okay, if it were like a first year quarterback, second year quarterback, whatever, it'd be different. But with Spencer, they're like, this is kind of your team. So like, if you feel like you can play, like I wouldn't literally bet money because that would be terrible. But I'm going to guess that he's going to play. Don't bet on that.
Yeah, you don't mean literally,
Not literally, no.
All right, well, let's
I feel like the glow of all of these orange seats is like reflecting off me. I feel like super orange right now.
No, your color looks really good. I look red. Do I look red to you?
I just don't know what your actual, like, what is your actual background? Like, is that like the newsroom, or are you like in a weird room?
No, that's a photo. This is.
I understand what is behind you. If that weren't behind you, what would be behind you?
I'm in the quasi conference room.
Okay.
Behind Paul Terrell's desk.
I just think that maybe that is what is affecting your coloring, is that like the backdrop doesn't mesh with you because it's not a normal backdrop. Whereas I have this here.
Yours looks great. The color and it looks. I look dull and red. And all right, we're gonna.
Maybe you should get like a peel or like a facial or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna get right on that. Yeah.
Okay. I can give you some names of people to go to. I'll text you that later.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Do that. All right. Basketball. Let's talk hoops.
Oh, basketball's a sport. Oh, we were going to talk about Mike Gundy though.
Oh, well, go ahead. Oh, that's right. Yeah. So again, we're taping this a day early. Normally you would
going really well too.
I blame you. You're throwing me
100% my fault.
Yeah. I think you're in a good mood because basketball is starting, and even though the balance is really tough between football and basketball, you really like basketball. So I think you're in a good mood. That's my theory anyway.
Basketball is just like, I'm not going to say it's a breath of fresh air. It's just like a breath of different air, like it's not like better or worse. It's just different. It's like you're grinding through football season. And it's like football. And then you're like, oh, basketball. And then it's just like it's just something different to write about. And I'm still learning. We're going to talk about basketball first because I'm already talking about it. I'm still learning about this team, just because I've watched a little bit of practice, but I think with college basketball, you just are not as aware of another team that you're not covering as like, with football, you see more and you read more, and you're just probably more in tune with a program. Even if it's not the one that you're covering. So with OSU basketball, haven't been around this program in like a decade. And just being around it and dealing with Mike Boynton, who is really great to deal with. He's probably the most like upfront coach I think maybe I've ever covered. Like, he was asked about his starting lineup today, and he's like, well, I don't really want guys to feel like they've like wrap things up. They still have a couple days. Their first exhibition is Thursday, so they still have like a couple days left of practice before they get to like true like game weeks and all of that. But he's like, but in practice this is what we've been doing. But he's just so straightforward with things, and you're like that's just really refreshing. And I feel like he's always going to be like upfront about injuries and personnel stuff, and you can get away with a lot more of that in basketball. I understand why football coaches aren't that way, because there's a lot more strategy involved. But just kind of getting to know him, and I wouldn't say that I have everyone figured out or this team figured out or really anything in life figured out. I wouldn't say any of that, but I like the process of that because it's much faster with basketball. Because I'll see an exhibition Thursday, I'll see their first game Monday, and then a lot of games after that. I honestly haven't looked at the schedule beyond those two, but you quickly learn about a team. And Bryce Thompson is on this team. Like, I know Bryce. Like, Caleb Boone is on this team. Like, there are pieces that I'm definitely familiar with, but I like seeing how a team comes together, and covering Tulsa for 8 years, covering Frank Hague for 8 years, like his teams, as much as I liked Frank and I liked covering Tulsa, his teams took so long to come together. Like they really, like, it was slow going during non-conference play, and then they would just like click most of the time, not always, in like January, and then it became like more interesting. I kind of am interested, and it's been so long since I've covered a different college basketball coach. I'm interested in seeing what that process looks like for someone else to do it, or with a different program, different everything. So I think that puts me in a good mood. And don't mean to brag, but I am an AP basketball voter, which
That's right.
is such a treat. It's not at all anything that I regret signing up for, like literally on a weekly basis throughout basketball season. I don't regret it at all. It's a real challenge, and it's a lot of responsibility also. It really doesn't matter at all, but I think that responsibility I somewhat take seriously. And so like I get really interested when basketball starts up, because I'm like, I have to watch all of the games, especially in the first few weeks of the season. I'm like, I have to watch all of the basketball, and that's not really possible. But I like basketball. Basketball's a great sport. I love football too. It's just different.
We should remind people, and you referenced it earlier, you covered the Marcus Smart Oklahoma State Cowboys back. So it's been a while, but back in the day when you covered them, they were pretty good.
He's I would say that we've been on the same trajectory since those 2 years that we spent here together, Marcus Smart and me. I think we're probably making comparable money. He was so interesting to cover. Really, those 2 years were, I was going to say wild. They weren't really wild. They were they were kind of wild. I mean, he did push a fan in a game during a game.
There were wild moments. Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, just those 2 years were, the expectations were so high, and they absolutely did not live up to them. Like, they did not win an NCAA tournament game with him. Like, that's crazy. But they won a lot of big games, and they were, even when they lost, it was really interesting. And Travis Ford was really interesting. I'm just going to use the word interesting, because I really don't know how to describe anything from that time other than it was really interesting. But 2 years that that program was extremely relevant, and like nationally, and there was a lot of attention on Marcus Smart and LeBron Nash. Those years were a trip for sure. But they had a lot of talent then. This team, where the program is now, having these pieces that they've acquired, I'm more interested to see how they fit together, because the teams then, it was so much about the talent, and those pieces didn't always work well together. It was just disjointed at times, and there were a lot of reasons for that, and we could talk for hours about that. But I like the team. I like the approach that Mike Moyton has, like, just like what they're doing differently with their personnel this year. They're gonna put Caleb Boone at the 4 and see how that goes. I just feel like he's compiled a team that has good pieces, instead of like what I feel like the approach maybe has been in the past. Like, let's just stockpile a lot of talent and let's just see how it goes. And that oftentimes, I mean, like, we've seen that at places like Memphis, like they've had like this overwhelming amount of talent, and things just kind of fall apart because it's not good chemistry. And that it's just a completely different approach. So I like this team. What I know about it so far, it could be an epic disaster. No idea. They could make the tournament. No idea. I mean, and I think that's what I like about basketball, is you really don't know how things are going to go. It's so unpredictable. Whereas football, like, most of the time you're gonna, if you asked me at the beginning of the season, is this a 10 win team, I'd be like, yeah, I think so. Like, and you could probably guess within 2 wins, 2 losses, like a prediction for the season. Like, you're probably going to get pretty close. Basketball, it's just, there's so many unknowns and variables that it truly is like a roller coaster or like a marathon or something like that, that you just don't know how it's going to go. And it's like, I can't wait to see how it goes because I have no idea. Also, don't remember what that question was.
Me either. Has there been a women's coach availability yet? Have you had a chance to delve into that?
Are you trying to put me on the spot here?
Did I? I didn't mean to if I did.
It's a little bit unfair. There's been an availability that I was not able to attend. So thanks for like, let's just put that out there. I'm sorry I was unable to make it. I got into a car accident that day. That's a whole different thing. I will be covering a lot of women's basketball, so don't worry about that. I love women's basketball. I will be at the first game on Monday. I'm actually in the same building right now as, like, there will be an exhibition here later, but I will not be at it because I'll be at football availability. So that's a great thing to add to that. But you know, I've been around JC Hoyt before. I was at her introductory news conference, and I love her energy and her style. So there's that.
All right.
I wouldn't say that she has better taste in shoes than I do, just maybe like comparable.
Do you think she has more shoes than you?
I don't.
Does anybody on the planet have more shoes?
Mike Boynton has a lot of shoes, like a lot of shoes. So
how would you know that?
What'd you say?
How would you know that?
Because I've never seen him wear like the same pair of shoes.
Okay, and of course you notice that kind of stuff.
Of course.
That could be a story, Kelly. Seriously.
We'll get there.
I mean, that's interesting.
But I mean, when talking about the OSU women, this is going to be a bit of a rebuilding year, and there's something to be said for that process when you have a ton of turnover in personnel, because there was a great coach who was here for a long time in Jim Littell, and he brought in those players, and when there was a coaching change, they saw that as an opportunity to go somewhere else that might be a better fit. I don't see anything wrong with that. So JC Hoyt, has brought in, transfers and players who maybe would be a better fit. So they're going to win some games this year. I don't think they're going to win any championships this year. But I think that they're going to be interesting because there's something to be said for that process of, a coach bringing in, the type of players who fit their system and starting not from scratch, because she did inherit some players who stuck around who do fit what she's trying to accomplish. But I think there's a lot of potential there. It just may, year one, that's I think difficult to expect it to happen in year one.
Sure. No, it's a process, like you said, for sure. All right. Unless you want to talk about more shoes, we can cut it off there for this week.
We were going to talk about Mike Gundy, and then you just decided not. We had a
list
of
let's talk about. I'm
and
sorry.
You just decided just to go rogue.
I told you from the beginning. I feel a little all over the place. So yeah, you're seeing it live and in color now. I'm a little all over the place. Yeah. Talk about Mike Gundy. He has his usual press gathering on Monday. I'll just let you take it from there. Your observations from that.
So I really feel like, this is my first year back on the beat, but I covered a couple of years previously. And I feel like when something bad happens, or like maybe not something like, it's not like a like no one like died or anything. Like if there's like something goes wrong, we'll say that way. It's almost like it's like not a relief, but it's like there's the pressure there's less pressure at that point. Like what happened in Manhattan was pretty much the worst thing that could happen, short of like someone like dying or something like that. But I'm not sure why I'm laughing at that, but like it was really bad. They lost a football game that, at the end of the day it's football. But it's almost like after things like that happen, he's more like loosened up than normal. Like it's like, okay, well that happened, so he's just kind of matter of fact about it. And he's kind of like funny anyway, but he had a lot of funny moments yesterday. Like he kept like cursing and then like being like, oh, I didn't mean to curse, but then he'd do it again. He just was more like just like, I guess, like loose. I don't know how else to explain it. He's been like pretty comfortable and like unsettling, almost like unsettlingly like, I don't know, comfortable, I guess. But he was especially that way yesterday. And it's like he's talking about like this terrible loss and he's being funny, and like I find that to be like really interesting. That's instead of being like, I think when I was on the beat before, he got more stressed out. Like, he's had a quarterback situation. He'd be like, kind of harder to ask questions of and, get any information from him. But I feel like at this point in his career, he's like, yeah, I guess I didn't get our guys prepared, and that was real bad. Just like what he said to Kansas State's head coach after the game, which I'm pretty sure is a word that we can't say on our website, but basically said you picked a bad day to play your perfect game. Well, that's a paraphrase. But he was funny and he was conversational and he just had some really good anecdotes, and I think there's something to be said for him being able to take something that was not really ideal and not getting super wound up over it and almost being like, that's probably the worst we're going to play all season, but that's what we did. It happened. And now we can move on from that. Although it's not like, you're not going to be moving on in the way that you'd like to move on and like go to the, like, you're not going to be in a playoff game now, but you can still like move on from something that happened. That if that's the worst thing that happens to you all season, like you can move on from that, I guess is like how I think that he feels about it. So I think he's good in those types of moments because he has that perspective. He's like, I've been doing this a very long time. We've lost other games before that didn't hurt the program. We're still in a really good spot. All of those things. He just has different perspective than like maybe like a first year coach or second year coach who's still trying to build something. He's like, this bad thing happened and it's not going to ruin our program. We just have to figure out a way to move on like today.
Yeah.
Also don't know if that answered any questions, but I just thought it was interesting. His just the way he handles things is you're just seeing a veteran coach. You're seeing someone who doesn't get too ruffled by good things or bad things, wins or losses.
Yeah, no, you're right. And if you didn't know what happened, you wouldn't know either way from Monday. He was exactly what you just described. So
but I think he's very even keeled now because he's not the one thing that surprised me that he said was he said he still gets like kind of like nauseated before game. He doesn't eat on game days because he gets like nauseated and he has like butterflies. I wouldn't have guessed that. Like that was the one thing that he said, not really like connected to any of that, but I wouldn't have guessed that from him because he just seems the camera will be on him like in a really stressful moment in a game, and I'm not, obviously he cares, like they put so much work and time into like winning games, but he's just like he's expressionless at times because he's lived through a lot of losses, a lot of wins. But he doesn't live and die with every play. And I just think that, over the course of close to 20 years, a person grows up a lot. I like to think I've grown up a lot in the last 20 years, but I think especially in the past decade, he's changed a lot. And I like seeing this version of Mike Gundy. Like it's a lot different from the one that I saw before.
Yeah, I mean, I think we take it for granted maybe a little bit in these parts. His first head coaching job was Oklahoma State, and it was his alma mater, and we've watched him grow up in a way. I mean, we watched him grow up because he was in high school in Midwest City, but as a head coach, we've also watched him grow up. And yeah, he's changed quite a bit. He's comfortable, and it's everything you just said, 100%.
But then you also I think at the same time as not really taking that for granted, you also have to keep in mind that things change, circumstances change quickly. Like, as much as I'm like, oh yeah, no, I think he'll be there for another decade, like, and he's happy and this is what he wants. Like, all it takes is for like one thing to change with a person for them to be like, you know what, this isn't it anymore. And like, obviously there are going to be a lot of openings, and they'll probably mention Mike Gundy for every opening because that's just how it goes. As much as you think that somebody and you're like, oh, that would never happen. Like, crazy things happen. Like, we've seen it so many times, and it would be stupid of us to be like, oh yeah, he would never be interested in any other job. Like, we've lived through this before, and he's obviously interviewed with other places. I mean, he just talked about that a few weeks ago after the 2011 season, a historic type season. He was thinking about leaving for the NFL, and how serious that was, like, we'll never know. But I don't see that happening with the way things are set up now. But as soon as you think that you have things figured out, you are reminded that you absolutely do not have things figured out. At least I am. Maybe not you. That's just me.
All right. Safe travels.
I'm going to see if they can just have me do this here every week.
Well, I mean, you won't have cats interrupting you and all that. So that's
I'm sorry, Althea. Sorry, Althea. We don't have any cats. I should have brought a cat just in preparation.
Althea Peterson's on our web staff, and a lot of times she'll get these videos live and on our site, and she always loves seeing the cats. She's going to be very disappointed. I may not even tell her that there are no cats on this one. Just let her.
You're going to make her watch this whole thing.
I don't want to disappoint her ahead of time.
Either way, we will disappoint her. That I'm sorry for that. But I'll tell her what I'll tell everyone else. If you're interested in a cat or a kitten or like multiple kittens, I got you.
You
obviously, this is an opportunity to tell people, please get your pets fixed. Like, if you're not getting your pets fixed, like, I'll just stop there.
Just leave it there. Okay. Final thing. Give us a score this weekend. What do you got?
No, I'm not. We're not doing scores.
You don't want to do a score? You don't feel all right.
I absolutely cannot predict this team. Like, they lost 48-0 last week. Like, I did a radio segment with the Oklahoma City Sports Animal like right before the game, and they asked me for a score prediction. I did not pick 48-0.
Yeah, but nobody did. Nobody.
I'm not doing any more score predictions. Like, literally everything I say is like the opposite is clearly going to happen. So I just don't even know anymore. I just don't even know. Done.
All right, good enough. All right, we'll catch up next week.
I do think that OSU will win. I think they'll bounce back.
Okay, fair enough. We'll leave it there. Talk to you next week.
Okay, sounds good.